be seated. All right, so now we're going to introduce our special, some people who are here to speak to us on this lecture series up for today. So one of them we have amongst us is, we'd like to honor everyone. Everyone is special to us, everyone is special, but we just have some special people amongst us who made today possible. Let's acknowledge the presence of Professor Olubenga Ogunmoyala. Is he here with us? Please just rise for recognition. Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming. God bless you, sir. We also like to acknowledge Dr. Olayowole Ona-Sonya. Please rise for it. Thank you, sir. We're happy to have you with us. We would like to also acknowledge Dr. Jamachi Chris Asoluka. Please, is he here with us? All right. We also like to recognize Mr. Yinka Fisher, the Lagos State Coordinator, Small Sweden. Thank you, sir. Thank you for coming. Thank you. Please, let's put our hands together for him. We also have amongst us Mr. Ologbenla Adebowale, Lagos State Coordinator for National Directorate of Employment. Is he here with us? All right, all right. He's on his way coming, he's on his way coming. We also have with us Mr. Ayodeji Balogun, the Country Manager for Affects Communications. Is he here with us? All right, he's on his way coming. We also have Mr. Adewale Fatokun, Bayer Crop Science. Thank you very much. Let's put our hands together for him. Thank you, sir, for coming. We also have Dr. Abayomi Olaniyan from DG Nihot. Is he here with us? Is he here with us? All right. We also have amongst us Mr. Andrew Egbadon, representative from Fresh Organics. Is he here with us? Okay. In his absence, we also have Mr. Shola Benson, Head Extension Nursery. All right. Thank you. Please, let's put our hands together for him. We also have Mr. Yinka Fisher. Is he here with us from Lake Smeden? He's on his way. We also have, okay, we'll call more people as they come to meet us. So to start off, let us invite our first keynote speaker, Professor Olubenga Ogunmoyala, Bells University, Ota. Please, let's put our hands together for him.
When I got this invitation, I asked myself what AQAN was about. Hello, volume. Yes. When I received the invitation, I tried to Google AQAN and what they are all about, so as to know the kind of mix of audience that I will be talking to. But essentially, I have tried to put together something that we can just speak through. I want to just discuss as generally as possible in a way that we can, because of our diverse interests in a place like this. The diversity of interests, maybe whatever responsibilities we have cut across different areas of the value chain. So, since they have given me only 20 to 30 minutes, I will just run through my slides as quickly as possible and hope that the question and answer session can take care of some of the issues. Right. I don't want to spend too much time talking about myself. Introduced. Please, next slide. Next slide. Right. I'm going to very quickly look at the situation of I've been asked to talk on exploring the fruits and vegetables market and value chain in Nigeria. And I want to look at an overview of the Nigerian situation, and then particularly maybe use tomato value chain as a case study. Look at some of the experiences that we have had. I've had the privilege of being in the research institute, moving to industry, being in academics for all of the last 38 years or so. So, to a large extent, I would want to make this as interactive as possible. And then, of course, lastly, what I believe you should be considering when you want to go into the fruit and vegetable agribusiness area. Next time. Now, the first thing I want to also understand is that today's customer, the needs of any customer today is a key element in actually developing tomorrow's business opportunities. A key element of understanding what are the opportunities that you have in your value chain. You need to understand that. And we are blessed as a country with a very rich diversity of fruits and vegetables. But somehow it looks like we don't really understand true value addition. You know, when I had an experience many years ago when I went to Israel, and we went across the fields and saw banana and plantain fields, and you had polythene sheets covering the shoots as they were coming out. And by the time they were harvesting, you would find no single blemish. No single blemish. And then you would actually be able to pack them properly, and no wonder they will go across in the export market, and we're exporting, we're importing bananas and importing all kinds of funny things, when we should be the ones that are exporting these varieties. But what are the key issues? Fruits and vegetables play a key role in food, in the diet. You know, for example, that we have, most times we say don't eat any, if you want to eat in a nutritious way, you must take at least 4 different food groups. You must, you know, most times you take only, if you take apple and with okra, you are taking only 2 food groups. And you take meat, it has become 3 food groups. And then if you take fruit and vegetable to join it, you actually are on the right track. But by and large, look at different food, types of different food groups, of classes of food that are available to us. In other words, we have roots and tubers, we have legumes, we have pulses, we have herbs and spices, we have I will provide you with protein, carbohydrate, fats and oils, as well as vitamins and minerals. Please, next slide. Now, let's look at what is our situation. The level of malnutrition in Nigeria is very alarming, as the country accounts for the highest level of child malnutrition in sub-Saharan Africa due to our poor diets. And yet, we have a very rich agricultural landscape. Nigeria is among the 3 countries with the largest incidence of stunting. And you can see we are comparing with India and Pakistan. But population for population, you see that Nigeria is worse off, because look at the population of India relative to the population of Nigeria. Then I would like to direct our attention to the fact that in the last decade, because of our eating habits and the fact that we are neglecting fruits and vegetables as an important component of our diets, incidences of hypertension, non-communicable diseases like hypertension, obesity, and all of the associated non-communicable diseases have been on the increase. Statistics have shown that they are on the increase in the country. And that's why Nigeria is ranking 145 out of 157 countries in the road towards meeting the SDGs. Now, where do we get basically, please, let's go to the next slide. Let's go to the next slide. Now, I want us to pay, I'm going to be paying particular attention to how our fruits and vegetables are going to be available in the value chain, how we will be able to provide access, because many people sit down in Lagos and they say, I have a farm somewhere in the hinterland, and you cannot access the farm. And so everything they produce, they put out there. When you see lorries bringing plantain or tomatoes or whatever into Lagos, you see them quashed. Everything just one on top of the other. And that's not the way the value chain is going to be maximized. And that's not the way we are going to achieve food security. Now, the key thing which I put there is that everything we are talking about translates to nutrition security. And so what I want to share in the time available this morning is how we are going to be able to take each of the examples of different fruits and vegetables and see how we can develop the value chain and ensure that we can make them provide adequate nutrition security. Next slide. Well, there is no point. I'm sure most of you are aware of the 17 SDGs, and actually takes the opportunities in the value chain. You can actually move away from the poverty level, and then of course health and well-being is ensured if you have access to, especially to fruits and vegetables. In your diet, you can actually make your diet live on fruits and vegetables and less on meat and carbohydrates, as it were. Next slide. I'm not going to dwell too much on this. The statistics of they are very depressing. I think I've summarized it. Next slide. Next slide. The main, sorry. Go back. The main thing I want to point out here is you will find that most of our fruits and vegetables in the south are actually produced. We are blessed with the agrarian land that actually supports this. They are rain-fed. They are not under irrigation. They are not. How many people have hydroponic farms in this place? So you need to be able to look at what are the options that we need to develop if we want to actually explore the value chain. And that's one of the reasons why when we talk about disparities in the regions, we find that there are more challenges nutritionally in the north, because even though they produce tomatoes and all the other fruits that they bring down south, we find that many of the key nutrients that they need to have, they don't have. So the stunting indices are very much out of favor when it comes to the north. Next slide. Then let's also look at what we have by way of how many months of the year we don't really have access to food. And we have already zeroed our minds to the far, and I'm talking, because I'm talking to people in the south here, I'm going to be looking mainly at at the peculiarities of our environment here. Because where there is access to irrigation, they actually are able to cultivate how many cycles in a year. But here we just sit down and wait and say, oh, there's a rainy season coming. When the rainy season comes, that's when you cultivate. And that is really not how you are going to maximize the value chain. Because you need to be able to have as many cropping seasons as possible in a year to ensure consistency. In 1986, somebody called me and said, I want to set up an integrated tomato factory. I want to start from the farm, go to the factory and make puree and all of that, carry. And honestly speaking, by the time we studied the landscape, and he was going to put that in the battle. By the time we studied the landscape, we said, look, how are you sure you are going to be able to support the number of cycles required to supply this factory? And that's what happens in many factories. You find that when you set up a factory that can produce how many tons a day, you have only about 10% of material supplies. That becomes a problem. And then some people will go to my 12 market. You can't make progress. You can't make profit. when you want to go and buy from the market and you don't have access to your raw materials properly there. So that's to me a big challenge. That puts you at a disadvantage. So if we have about 4 to 5 months in the year that the value chain is actually maximized, and even if you have to have factories that are supporting you, you are able to meet what is required. And what are the implications of this? Let's move on. The implication is that, look at, for example, for the case of tomatoes, Nigeria is the world's largest, 14th largest producer in the world, but we are also the 13th largest importer of tomato paste. We are the second largest producer of tomatoes in Africa, but we are the third largest importer of tomatoes in Africa. So that's the paradox. Next slide, please. But what is important here is to say, in spite of what I have described now, where it's not even available all around the year, yet 45 to 50% of what we produce actually goes to waste. Oh my friend, when you go to Ketu, you will see Esha. They will say, oh yeah, come and buy Esha. Esha, the more you put rotting with fresh, the more you damage everything. But people are not consuming something that will give them good nutrition. And yet, we are promoting that instead of looking at how we can actually ensure that we reduce post-harvest losses. Because the only way we can maximize the value chain is to start by reducing post-harvest losses. And the next slide. You know, when I say start by reducing post-harvest losses, one of the things we did a few years ago, we said, look, first of all, why are we using baskets? We have to start using crates so that for different fruits and vegetables, the crates can be stacked and stacked one on top of the other without any question. You know, and then we try to say, okay, so how do we give people, how do we begin to promote the use of crates? And some local companies came. The moment, and there's a story to this, the moment some local companies came and said, okay, we can produce crates, by the time they got to Abuja, when the thing had been endorsed in principle, by the time they got to Abuja, a foreign company had been told to come and produce. So if we are not going to help ourselves to develop, how do we actually improve the value chain? If we are going to be importing, when all manner of plastics litter our environment, and we actually can use them to develop low density and high density polyethylene and make all these crates and be able to help our environment, and we still have to import crates, you know, we have a challenge. There's no way we can actually ever maximize this. Now, I remember when I was in Calgary many years back, we looked at the example of tomato and we said, okay, fine, we want to make tomato puree available all over. But we discovered that, number one, we could not even compete with the imports that were coming into the country because there are subsidies. There are European subsidies given to those farmers, so they are able to supply at very cheap rates, and you know, and the factories are able to flood our markets at much lower prices than what was costing us. And so we said, okay, can we go to where it is produced? And we went and talked to farmers, and we got an aggregate of farmers through UTC at the time, and we set up a factory. And this is what we call proximate processing, which is recommended today for most of all various fruits and vegetables. Proximate processing, where you locate your factory close to where the production is, and you are able to, so you don't have to transport over long distances. And really that is one way by which you are going to maximize the value chain. Now, and we discovered eventually that making tomato, how many of us remember tomato?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because tomato, peppers, and what have you, put all of that together and we were selling tomato. And we discovered that the imports did not allow us to actually survive, and the products naturally died within some years. Now, but the main thing that we need to understand here is that with a population of almost 200 million, our demand outweighs our supply. Why should that be so? Why should that be so? Why should we, in a country where we can produce, well, our demand is much more than our supply? Because we are losing about 50% of what we are producing every year, which means we are really not maximizing that value chain. Now, so how do you process your fresh fruits and vegetables? You can do primary processing, whether they are to slice the fruits, and as they are sold in many various sectors. People have created businesses out of buying pawpaw, apple, all different watermelon and so on and so forth, putting these out on the streets as in slice form in plastic bits. Then, of course, there is washing and waxing. Then leafy greens are actually bagged. I've not seen much of, except to go to the likes of ShopRite and Spar and all those things. You don't see bagged fruits here. But you see, I'll tell you a story about how some of those things are actually happening. They're happening now because in the last few years, Global Alliance I have been privileged to have been consultant to the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition based in Geneva for the last 12 years or so. And a few years ago, they started a post-harvest loss alliance. I don't know how many of us have heard of PLAN. Have you heard of PLAN? Yeah. And so, one of the things we decided to do was to look at how we could develop the cold chain in Nigeria, because fruits and vegetables are highly perishable. Yes. Perishable. So once they start losing water, they begin to wither, whether they are greens or whatever, and that's where problems begin to set in. So you need to keep them under some optimum temperature, and that's why the cold chain business. And so that creates an opportunity for the cold chain business to actually help. Then, of course, how many of us have seen washed or waxed apples in this environment? Now, okay, but so value addition comes in different forms depending on the type of fruit or vegetable that we are talking about. Secondary processing also alters the food from its natural state to turn into other products. I've given the example of tomato paste. I can give the example of fruit jams. You know, who would believe that we are still importing jams and jellies into Nigeria today? One of the foremost companies that I remember, even when I was still a student in the University of Ibadan in the 70s, started making jams in quality foods in Ibadan. The man has still remained in that place up to today. We have not scaled, and yet what is producing to the market is so small compared to what we are actually importing because of demand and supply situation, and that's very unfortunate. And you can have dried mangoes, dried tomatoes, purees or juices or nectars, canned fruits and canned vegetables. In fact, you don't even need to go into canning. You can do plastic films, laminated plastic films that actually you put your purees and juices, purees into all those things. They're cheaper to actually do. But these are things that people can actually do to add value to various fruits and vegetables. Next slide, please. But you see, in talking about exploring, especially when we are converting these products into secondary forms, one of the challenges we have is that we are having smallholder farms. Remember, government has been encouraging the home gardens. You remember the home gardens now? Yes. It's one of the cardinal programs that government has been encouraging in the last few years. Home gardens, so that people can actually be able to feed themselves. And you know, smallholder farms, what they do is any kind of fertilizer. They don't get information, they don't get any kind of fertilizer they have access to. They just use it. And not only in Nigeria, in other countries, you've had situations where a wrong use of fertilizer has actually led to so many deaths. You're surprised. I mean, we had the incidents of runner beans in Germany somewhere around 2012. We have had so many other different world experiences like that. Next slide, please. So, what are the practices that we have? And I'm not going to dwell on this because I've already mentioned some of them. But I want to talk specifically about, please, next slide. NAFDAC in the last few years has been fighting the issue of use of calcium carbide for ripening, artificial ripening of. Next slide. NAFDAC has been fighting that. And what is the main issue there? You will discover that when I was a student, when I was a postgraduate student in the UK in those days, one of the things we were actually excited about was the fact that you could come to Nigeria, you could actually set up what we call ripening room and do proper artificial ripening. You know, how many of us know that you can use stoves? Your kerosene stoves can actually produce what we call blue flame. Yes, that blue flame gives you a very good level of ethylene. That when you put your fruit, when you harvest your fruit, and in an enclosed dark room, and you actually have those stoves all around, you know you elevate the temperature. Not only do you elevate the temperature, the ethylene actually enhances the ripening of the fruits. That is what technology has done, and is used a lot in many of the Asian countries. But here, instead of adopting the technology in the way it should be, we now went to calcium carbide. Calcium carbide that the vulcanizers use, that will give you a lot of carbon monoxide that can actually kill people. And so they say, no, please don't use calcium carbide because you are actually endangering people's lives. And you will increase the toxin level to the point that when you start having cancer one way or the other, you start wondering where is this coming from. And of course, we are not in a society where you readily detoxify yourself. So these are the challenges. As I mentioned before, we need to start moving to hydroponics. Hydroponics will ensure that you actually have control on what you are producing, and then from when you harvest, you can then be able to process very, very rapidly without actually having to transport very over long distances. That's the problem. Next slide. I'm sure there are people. Well, I was very happy to see one of anthropologists there. You are familiar with Tuta absoluta, the kind of problems we have with poor management practices, pre and post harvest exposure to crops, pests and diseases. Next slide. Then look at the kind of way we are handling these tomatoes. You don't know that this is not the best way to maximize the chain, especially when they are not, when you lay them out on the floor. In other places, some places I've seen, they even try to use some canvas and put them on top. But most of the time, you just make a complete surface, all the dust, all the elements come onto it. It's not the best. Next. This is the way that we traditionally store some of these things. And these are the reasons why, by the time the sun has beaten and beaten, at the end of the day, you go to the market to go and buy something that is already near spoilage, soggy, and then you buy. when we talk about the value chain and how we're going to explore it, the first thing we need to do is to look at the input. What are the things, what are the opportunities that you have as far as input supplies are concerned? What type of crop are you interested in? What type of inputs do they require? What type of opportunities are there? Because you can create businesses in each segment of the value chain. Just whether you are supplying inputs, or you are farming, or you are doing wholesale, do business within the value chain by just looking at the opportunities that you have within that chain. Next slide, please. Now, I mentioned this before. One of our MSMEs that we have been actually we've been coaching, as it were, in the last couple of years. I mean, he just recently won the regional award because it's now, I mean, people, he handles how many thousand tons of produce that they bring to his factory. I mean that he's able to collect from the farms directly and process and carry through cold chain vehicles that he delivers to various ways. But you see, the point I want to make in this is that the cold chain capacity building must exist side by side with other alternative ways of maximizing the value chain. Why? Because it's not everybody that can go to Spar and ShopRite and they want to go and buy. But some of us still have to depend on, okay, I want my own in a dried form to actually use, right? So we need to be able to manage it like that. Next slide, please. Now, which means that in the traditional approach, you just carry everything and lump them together, and that doesn't always work. But if you want to maximize the chain, maximize the value, you need to be able to go from sorting. You have to sort them, sort and grade, and then pack in different grades. That's what is supposed to be done. No matter what type of fruit or vegetable, even if it's apples, for instance, oranges, or tangerine, or whatever, you need to sort them into different grades and then sell by grade. Well, just the same way as we do for eggs. Next slide. Next slide. This is true. So we need. So like I mentioned, there are a lot of challenges that are faced by value chain players. In many cases, oh, we hear that they are ripening. So this is just take this one, take calcium carbide, use calcium carbide, go and ripen. But it's not backed up by any, there are dangers in that kind of practice. Farmers lack access to good quality seeds. You cannot, when I was a young boy, I remember that one of the first breakthroughs in research, was that we used to have tomatoes with seeds in those days, remember? Yes. That they would put on the grinding stone and you would not be able to get rid of the seeds. It was research that actually helped to eliminate the seeds and increase the pulp. So, and you know, in those days, the skins used to be very, very tough. Now the skins are actually more hard. So now that's the kind of thing. Now you have such access to such seeds that help you to maximize your yield. So you are not getting, when you wet meal your tomato, you are not getting a lot of water. You get that. Then of course the type of equipment we are using for planting and harvesting, and access to new technologies and innovation. Those are things that our farmers need to be able to help us, because no matter what segment of the chain that you are, the farmer is still an important element in ensuring that what we get, whether as raw material or as on the table, they are actually at a certain standard. Next slide. Then the processors need access to good quality raw materials, and then again access to new technologies and innovation. There are research institutions that actually are supposed to be providing the necessary support, and I'm happy I saw NIHOT here. I'm sure they will throw more light on how they can be of support in meeting some of these challenges in the value chain. Next slide. Well, these are just to say that, I've already said this before, which is that we need to be able to explore different forms. Number one, you want to maintain freshness from the farm to the consumer. And so you may need to introduce some cold chain transportation. Number two, you may want to dry your produce and then be able to store them in dried forms. That is what we call convenience. Convenience. Number three, you may want to even just reduce the amount of water. And if it is to be processed to a level that it becomes a puree, that is another form of value addition. But essentially, whether it's fresh or preserved, we want to be able to have access right around the year in a way that ensures that the prices can be controlled. Next slide, please. Do this look familiar? Now, I don't know how many of us remember that our queues and chef pepper soup queues of those days, but some of these things, they are things that are preserved and value is added to ensure that we can move forward rather than going backwards. Next slide. Commercial juicing of fruits and vegetables, sometimes people say it destroys the nutrients. But the point is that it actually preserves and makes available when it is needed. You'll be surprised that we are spending money buying purees. Children who are winning diets. You are buying Heinz baby foods, you are buying this and that, where you should be making your own from your local fresh fruits and vegetables at home. These are the opportunities. And there are many young entrepreneurs that we are raising in recent years that are actually trying to look at what is available in this space to develop nutrients based on our local fruits and vegetables, fish and what have you, to make those types of alternatives locally, and they are packaging them and selling in the market. Next slide. And just to let you know that, as I mentioned before, plan has been there, GEMS 4, different programs that have been done to actually try to promote the development of fruits and vegetables in Nigeria. Next slide. And then, of course, food waste initiative. Rockefeller Foundation actually wanted to see how we can achieve at least a 50% reduction in post-harvest losses in Nigeria by 2030. That project is still on. Whether we will be able to achieve 10–20%, it matter that we will still. And part of it is why we mentioned the issue of plastic crates and airtight facilities. Information is important. Facilitating market linkages, and I believe one of the greatest challenges we have is food access. Our roads are bad, we are producing, everybody wants to move to the urban areas. That is a major challenge, which only we can address through government and its objective of providing an enabling environment. Next slide, please. So what should you consider before you venture? Number one, what type of fruit or vegetable are you interested in? In every country, we have what we call areas of agroclimatological suitability. Don't go and grow something that is not suitable for your area because you say, but that's what you want to do. But you know that the land there is not going to support it. So land is important. Location and security are very important. You know, I was reading something on WhatsApp a few days ago about a judgment in 1969. That's a judgment by the late Justice Adewale Thompson that said a law that says fence your farm so that you can preserve your crops, but says cows can roam around and come to, they don't have to be fenced. That law was not. That was not a law, and they outlawed. They actually, in that judgment, outlawed roaming of cows all over the country. So it's something that people are now just drawing attention to. But again, it's just talking about the issue of security. Because many times people will say that, oh, I did a horticulture farm, and by the time I got there, I didn't find anything. For 2 years now, every time I go there, I don't find anything on the farm, because people just come there and just come and risk. There are a lot of risks. Ready access to markets is important. Financing and making resources available, whether you want to dry or you want to puree or you want to maintain freshness, you still need some money. And you need access to financial, both technical support as well as financial support. And one of the things I'm going to encourage is that those of you who have genuine businesses in that space, you can opt to be part of the Scaling Up Movement business network in Nigeria. The SBN network is a movement. It's a global movement in about 61 countries today that is actually supporting various businesses, linking businesses together so that they can maximize opportunities in the market. I happen to be the country technical advisor to SBN for that particular program. But basically, it's not just meant for big companies. It's mainly meant for the medium and small scale companies, because those are the ones that are going to grow this economy in the long term. Next slide, please. As I begin to bring this to a close, I have provided some information about the benefits of the Sun Business Network and how we can take advantage of that. Next slide. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's put our hands together for him. Please have your seats at we just have any questions and answers. Okay, so we'll invite our second keynote speaker now, Dr. Olaiwole Onasonya, the Permanent Secretary, Lagos State Ministry of Agriculture. Please, let's put our hands together for him. Let's put our hands together.
My name is Dr. Olaiwole Onasonya, Permanent Secretary, Lagos State Ministry of Agriculture. And I'm happy to be here. I'm going to talk agribusiness in Nigeria, exploring fruits and vegetables, market and value chains for economic development, a case of Lagos State, as a professor talking. But I'm going to talk on just the practical areas where you can invest, where you can look at agribusiness and looking at fruit and vegetables. By definition, fruits, as we know, are plant parts that consist of seeds and flesh eaten as food, and usually sometimes with a full sweet taste, while vegetables are all other plants such as root, leaves, and stems. Well, fruit vegetable like tomato, which is, when you talk about tomato, out of the 2.3 million metric tons that is produced in Nigeria, at least 1.1 million metric tons even go to Mile 12 alone, not to talk of Lagos. So you can see that Lagos State is, without Lagos State, and then we also have leafy vegetables like ugu. A lot of it is grown in Lagos. When you go to Ikorodu side, you see a lot of people growing ugu. Then jute mallow, that's ewedu, around Ojo, Lasso, and so on. Lagos State has comparative advantage in these leafy vegetables. So we see a lot of them, shoko and so on. And then carrots. Well, we have some carrots that are being grown in Lagos around Ojo and so on, especially by the Hausa population. Next slide. For sustainability purposes, however, the role of agriculture and the fruits and vegetable markets and value chains in particular cannot be overemphasized. Hence, in Lagos State, we are sensitizing our farmers to take agriculture as a business across the entire value chain. We are not just looking at the growing, we are looking at where everybody can participate, either in seed production or seedling production, or in marketing, actual growing, or even in packaging. All these are very key to everybody. So in order to transform it from subsistence production to commercial and profitable business, Lagos State being one of the fastest growing cities in the world, population reaching about 23-24 million, and by 2050 we are looking at 50 million. With a daily increase of population and speedily approaching smart city status. If you see some of the trailers coming to Lagos, for example, trailers bringing in cattle to Lagos, they are supposed to be not more than 5 people, but today you see about 20 people, 25 people, and most of them don't go back. So you can see. So with a daily increase of population and speedily approaching smart city status, as through the Ministry of Agriculture identified the fruits and vegetable markets and value chain as a major aspect of collaboration for some major reasons. Next slide. Providing the inhabitants of Lagos State with cheap source of vitamins and minerals for healthy living through consumption of good quality fruits and vegetables. You all agree with me that as we grow old, this is what we should be eating. It's going to be hard to take a bath at 7, 8 o'clock in the night when you are going to 50, over 50. So very, very important, especially for the old people. Providing employment for the teeming population that is growing on a daily basis. And this is one area that can provide a lot of employment for people. We know what we are doing in Ojo, in my 12 area and so on, where people grow vegetables every day, fully employed. Then attracting investors to develop the value chain as direct investors or in partnership with the state government. Because when we are talking about fruit and vegetable, technology play a very key part. For example, a state like Lagos does not have land like the North, or even like Oyo State. And therefore, the issue of technology comes into play. Greenhouse farming, aquaponics, hydroponics. So all these, but we need investors to do something like this because they are capital intensive. Next slide. Below is a table of the vehicles that dislodges what they bring. For example, in mile 12, 30 vehicles a day. Okeodo, that's around the Agili, about 30 vehicles a day. Then Agbalata, in Badagry, about 40 vehicles a day. The transaction that is being done in some of this market is about 1.2 billion naira. Just cash turnaround. About 1.2 billion naira every day. So you can see that this is a big business. Next slide. Having raised these inexhaustive areas of service to the residents and growth of the state's economic base, the state government has initiated some forms of direct interventions, namely establishment of vegetable farm estates. We have one in Yafi to accommodate farmers interested in cultivation of fruits and vegetables. There you can see some people with their greenhouses and so on, doing well. Setting up of a greenhouse facilities to encourage production of fruits and vegetables all year round. And vigorous training and retraining of extension officers to assess and disseminate listed information and farming techniques to boost production yield. Well, these are some of the greenhouses we have in the Yafi. You can see some of the vegetables being grown in there. Tomato. Their clientele are ShopRite, all these high-end markets. Next one. Improve cultural practices. Models of food, vegetables, friendly fertilizers, agrochemicals, farm machinery, etc. is encouraged and properly introduced to farmers by extension agents, officers in order to boost yields and create wealth. One area where we have introduced to farmers is what's called the drip irrigation system, where you don't have to waste water, where within the greenhouse, the water goes directly with some liquid fertilizer. So these are some of the technologies that we have introduced, because if you want to supply ShopRite and all this high-end, then you need to improve on your technology. So these are some of the things. And then this brings about self-sufficiency for the state as production is improved, thereby increasing yield and consequently income. And let me say this, I saw Design Golf outside. That is one company that we have been able to interact, to collaborate with, especially in the area of greenhouse. They call it AQAN Farmers Kit. These are things that can be used to empower youths, because small greenhouse, and I know what they can make from there. Just growing tomatoes and supplying all these high-end markets. Next one. Well, irrigation, the need to embark on all year-round farming cannot be emphasized, because it is very, very important. For us to be self-sufficient in fruits and vegetables, irrigation is very, very key. And we do not need to depend on the natural climate. Because when you look at tomato, for example, when there is too much rain, the problem of especially diseases arises. But with greenhouse, hydroponics and so on, then you can grow your tomato all year round and then will become self-sufficient. Irrigation equipment needs to be provided for continuous cultivation of fruits and vegetables, especially during the dry season and in periods of drought. This is an example of a sprinkler irrigation system. Also, because I cannot be talking of fruits and vegetables without talking of our crop in Lagos. Coconut is our crop. Out of the production, Mr. Lakule, what's the production in Nigeria today?
384 metric tons.
I will produce about 272,000 metric tons. So Lagos State is at, when you look at the crest of Lagos, it's not here, crest of Lagos State, you will see the coconut tree, and that is our crop, and we are proud of it. We have 180 kilometers coastline that is predominantly cultivated to coconut plantation. We are the largest producer. We produce 7.1 million coconut fruits annually and 400,000 liters of coconut oil. We have, next slide, we have an agency called the Lagos State Coconut Development Authority. For example, one area, because the issue is that we must ensure that the use of coconut is not only just that we eat it alone. We must diversify its uses. One area where we have made some progress is coconut bread, where we have been able to work with some bakeries. Also the issue of coconut oil. And even we have trained over 200 youths in using coconut raw materials like waste to do arts and culture. Arts, for example, like Madame is sitting, they can use coconut to draw Madame. And so you can see that this is a crop that the value chain is so long that no matter what, over 108 uses that you can make from coconut. Opportunities in the perishable produce transportation. You know, I was talking about fruits and vegetables, and I was talking about the value chain. Because when we talk about the value chain, we are not just looking at just the growing and the eating and so on. Perishable produce transportation is one area. And it has been found out that with good transportation for tomato, pepper, and other perishables, you can reduce wastage to about 20%. And the state, in partnership with the private sector, have established a number of food marts. That's one area. We also have the food marts. We have in Alausa here, we have in Surulere, we have in Naija, and so on. And some of these food marts also take some of this produce. So that is part of marketing. So when you produce your tomatoes, some of them, they buy it. And the essence of the mart is to serve as sales outlets for fruits and vegetables cultivated in the state's established farm estates. Also, we want to change the mode of transportation of tomato, pepper, and so on in Lagos State. We have done some sensitization, but this is not for the government to put its fund. It's a private sector initiative. We have been talking to people in Mile 12, we have been talking to people in other markets that we need to change the mode of transportation. It will reduce wastage. When you see some of these rickety vehicles carrying some of these tomato and pepper, it's so bad. Even the apparel that they use, not standardized, and you see a lot of wastage. And we have commenced that sensitization workshops, but I tell you, we are not going to stop, we are going to go. This is a kind of vehicle that we are looking at, areas where the private sector can key into. And then, this reusable plastic crates is one area of investment too. As of today, the state government has given out about 10,000 plastic crates to marketers in Mile 12, in Abalat, and so on. Today, when we start talking that you cannot use all this fibrography and so on, then I think the state government will be justified. So this we have given out, and we have noticed that some of them have been adopting it. Because you can use this for 10 years. But the apparel, the raffia palm, or what they call it, when it spoils, you throw it away. It adds more to the waste in Lagos. So government will be spending more on waste. So we don't want that. So next slide. Processing. Also, these are areas. Prof was talking about tomato paste. Well, what I believe is that in the area of, we can, as households, let's start even from the household. You can start doing tomato paste ourselves from the house, as households, so that we can even buy, when there's this cyclical fluctuations, we can even buy, do our paste, serve it, even at the household level. And I want to tell you, if you want that technology, we have the Agricultural Development Authority in Okoba that will give out that technology to you, because free, because we are being paid as government to serve the farmers. So that technology can be given to you to store your tomato in paste. By the time we start from the household, maybe it will multiply. Next slide. Preservation equipment can be acquired and made available for use by smallholder farmers. Facilities such as cold chain store. Cold chain store is when you have your greenhouses, and then there's one that we are collaborating with the federal government that they are building in Yaf. I think they will soon finish it, so that farmers, when they have one sold stock, you can put there. Next one. This is a kind, but the one we have is not as big as this one, but it's smaller. So even storage facilities for tomato, we call it conditioning center, and pepper. It's another area of investment that anybody that has the funds or can even bring an investor can do. Next one. So the list of potentials in the fruit and vegetable market and value chain in Lagos State, in the renewed drive geared towards making agriculture a revenue spinner and enhance wealth creation for the nation at large, is just endless. So endless. It is therefore paramount to encourage the teeming use of our time to embrace agriculture, especially fruits and vegetable market and value chain, and exploit the various opportunities available therein. I thank this organizer of this program for the opportunity of being part of this forum and to move our Nigeria forward, and also Lagos State being a pivot. Thank you very much. As we say, big guy, thank you very much.
It's Valentine Aka. I am a farmer. Thank you. My question is to the Secretary, Lagos State Ministry of Agriculture. So thank you for your presence here. I want to ask if the state has water basin authority. Where are they located? And how can we meet them? The second question is about the state policy on agriculture. I live in Lagos, my family is here, I pay my personal income tax here. My company is registered, my team is paid to Lagos State, but my farms are in Ogun State. And anytime I approach the state for any help, immediately they ask of location of my business place. I say Ogun State, they tell me to go to Ogun State. So I don't know why it should be so. I believe that I am a Lagos State farmer. Lagos is my market. And why I went into agriculture is because of Lagos State. Because here is the market. Sir, if this is the case, what will you advise me to do?
Okay. As I said earlier, we have the River Basin Authority at Itoki, where they have irrigation facilities. We also have the Yafi Vegetable Estate. So if you want, see the issue is that if you want land, you will apply to the Ministry of Agriculture, depending on what you want to do. So it's it's not something that is, and then the River Basin Authority and so on is not under the state government, it's under the federal government. But we do some collaboration with them. Then as for the issue of having land in Ogun State and farming for Lagos, let me tell you, we cannot go beyond our boundary. It is Lagos State Ministry of Agriculture. We cannot go beyond our boundary. But if you need some assistance, like technical assistance and so on, that we can advise, we can do that. But we cannot we cannot put materials for Lagos State and take it to Ogun State. So you understand what I'm saying? Because our boundary is just Lagos State. But despite the fact, the gentleman can pay us a visit. We have the Lagos State Ministry of Agriculture, Alausa Idikeja, they have block 23. Or you can go to Agri-Development Authority at Okwobangige. So you can go and you can see what the state can even do for you. Thank you.
My name is Anthony. I'm working with some people know me already. I work with ShopRite. I am their quality control manager. Yeah. So I've been opportunity to be in a place where we have a talk like this. And thankfully the prof and the doctor actually talked about quality. I deal a lot with farmers. By God's grace, I was and I am a farmer myself because I grew up in the village and I farm every day there. So incidentally, I can relate to a lot of the things they were talking about. But unfortunately, what I've realized is that I think it's the structure, prof, and the cultural practices that is causing most of these things we talked about in terms of the qualitative things. People come in fruits, in veggies, we have grade A, grade B, grade C. Grade A goes to the premium market. Grade B goes to the open market. B becomes C. So C and part of B are supposed to go to the processors most times, so that they can be able to, the value chain, that's the way it works. But unfortunately in this part of the world, because we have been used to doing a lot of wrong things over time, you go to farms, you tell farmers, they'll tell you that's where we've been doing it all this while. You talk to consumers, they say we've been eating it like that since we were born. Our grandfathers ate it like that, nothing happened to them. Why are you telling us like this? And I had an opportunity to travel to other parts of the world, either for training and stuff like that. I was telling them there, I said, in South Africa, for example, I went to vegetable farms. as they were harvesting, a tractor was coming with a tank of water, chilled tank of water, pre-chilled to about 12 degrees, to 10 to 12 degrees. They dip it there, they wash it in there, and from there it is transferred to the cooling van right on the farm. So that means from cutting to immersing, washing, and going to the chilling van, the thing did not spend more than 15-20 minutes outside before getting to the cooling van. So tell me how they will not be able to export to Malawi, to Zimbabwe, to Angola, and the rest of Africa. But unfortunately, in this part of the world, there is a problem. Even bananas and plantains that you mentioned, sir. While I worked on the farm, I know what we do because we plant bananas. I come from Ekiti on those side. So when we plant cocoa trees, we use banana to cultivate cocoa trees to shield it at the nursery stage. So you realize that plantations have lots of bananas. Now, when we want to transport it out of maybe 50 hectares of cocoa plantation, what do? We tie the bunches together, hook it to the Okada, and then we call it Eledeloego. And we start pushing it out. We start dragging it through the whole place, through the farm, back to the main road. You realize that the whole body is bruised, and then when you get to the main road, you take it and then throw it to the person that will just stack it there like that. And if you are seeing all those motor they just throw it, and that's the way it works. Now, having now been able to work in a place where we need premium grade produce, we realize that by the time those things get to the stores, for God's sake, off it goes. And so it can't keep. I have to tell you this so that you know the expectations that are expected of farmers, so that they will know what to do, and the importance of abiding by all these things that Doctor has talked about. I will understand with tomatoes, but unfortunately, we need to change our way of doing things. And so, Doctor, Prof, my question is this: how do we get people to change this culture, and then how do we reform the structure? You told me about the fact that when the whole thing got to Abuja, there was a problem. How can we liaise with the state government so that they can do something? It's becoming a big issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What I want to say here is that youths will require a lot of youth in agriculture, because for people to adopt technologies, it's only youths that have seen that adopt technology easily. And therefore, it's important that we must continue to encourage youths to be in agriculture. And in Lagos, we have been doing our best, and I know that we are going to do more to encourage youths to come into agriculture. Because if it's attractive, then youths will be there. But if you are talking of this is how our grandfather did it and so on, it cannot work. It cannot work. And it's even changing. I don't know about other farmers in some other areas, but in Lagos State, a lot of technologies that we have shown to farmers, they have adopted. In aquaculture, in vegetable production, even in livestock, poultry, and so on. A lot of them have adopted such technologies, and it has improved what they are doing. For example, there's what we call in aquaculture, we call monosex technology for tilapia. This is a technology before. People just put in both male and female, and then you get very small small fishes. But today, these are technologies that they have adopted. Drip irrigation is another technology. Although mostly youths, some of them are in Mpe, some of them in Badagry, that now have their greenhouses and use the drip irrigation, not bringing in water can and so on. Although some of them have been supported by banks and financial institutions, and that's also one area. Because some of these technologies too, you need financial institutions to support you. So it is also very, very key. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Let me just add something to this. Definitely, I am very much in agreement with what Honorable Council just said, which is that you cannot continue to do things the same way and expect a different set of results. Definitely, we need a lot of training and training and training. But let me tell you where the challenges are. Over the last 20 to 30 years, the number of students who want to study agriculture has dropped by not less than 70 to 80%. Nobody wants to. Many agriculture faculties have shut down in universities because nobody wants to study agriculture. Where students even study agriculture, they study it and they want to go and they work in banks and work in places. So it's that, but we are not helpless. What I think is that government needs to do a bit more to encourage people to study agriculture and to stay in the agriculture space. Because, for example, if you want to become a farmer, it's not so easy. Especially you want to use new technologies. And right now we are lucky that the retail chain is developing in the country. So we can bring new people who are trained, who can innovate, who can utilize new technologies to do things. When we talk about subsistence farming, how are we going to change our mindset if we don't have new youths coming in?